Figure it out yourself. That's what my wife, Stephanie, yelled before slamming the gas pedal, leaving me standing in a gas station parking lot in Billings, Montana, 200 miles from home in Denver. Her sisters, Jessica and Vanessa, were in the back seat, laughing like it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. My name's John. I'm 34. I work construction for North Peak Engineering. Stephanie and I had been married for 8 years. We were supposed to be on a simple weekend getaway for her cousin's wedding. Just the four of us, splitting gas money and hotel rooms. But the entire drive up, something felt off. Stephanie kept exchanging knowing looks with her sisters in the rearview mirror. Whispered conversations would stop the moment I asked what was so funny. She'd just flash that sweet smile and say, "Nothing, babe. Just sister stuff." I should have trusted my gut. We stopped for gas an hour outside Billings. I went inside to grab a coffee, took my time in the restroom. When I came back out, the car engine was already running. Stephanie rolled down the window with a strange grin. "Get in," I said, confused. "Actually," she said, drawing it out, "we've been talking, and we think you need to learn some independence." "What?" Jessica leaned forward. "You're always so clingy, John. Always hanging on Stephanie like a lost puppy. We thought this might be good for you." Vanessa snickered. "A little adventure." I held up my keys. Except they weren't car keys. Just the house keys I'd grabbed that morning. My truck was back home in Denver. "This isn't funny," I said. "Cut it out." Stephanie smiled wider. "It's not a joke. It's a prank. You're always so serious. Learn to laugh a little." Then she yelled, "Figure it out yourself," and hit the gas. I stood frozen, watching their taillights disappear down Highway 2. Just me, my wallet, my phone, and the realization that my wife and her sisters had just abandoned me in the middle of nowhere. The October wind cut through my jacket. I could smell snow in the air. I called Stephanie. Straight to voicemail. Jessica? Same. Vanessa? She'd blocked my number months ago over some petty argument. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a harmless prank. This was something else entirely. I went back into the gas station. Asked the clerk how much a bus ticket to Denver would cost. "No buses here," he said. "Closest Greyhound is in Billings, 40 miles east." 40 miles. As I waited for a taxi I could barely afford, I thought about how I'd met Stephanie 9 years earlier. Smart, funny, the kind of woman who made you feel like the only person in the room. But her sisters? Different story. From the beginning, Jessica and Vanessa treated me like an intruder. At family dinners, they'd share inside jokes I couldn't follow. On vacations, they'd plan activities without asking if I wanted to join. "They are just protective," Stephanie would say. "They'll warm up to you." They never did. In fact, they got worse. Jessica constantly made snide comments, how I held Stephanie back from traveling or living life to the fullest. Vanessa rolled her eyes whenever I offered to help with anything. "Not everything needs a man to solve it," she'd say. And Stephanie? She always chose them over me. She forgot our anniversary 1 year to help Vanessa move. Missed my birthday dinner because Jessica had boyfriend problems. "Family comes first," she'd say. But I was supposed to be family too. The warning signs were there even before Montana. They insisted I didn't need my truck. Stephanie booked the hotel room under her name only. Jessica kept teasing me about how I never do anything spontaneous. "Remember when you used to be fun?" Vanessa asked on the drive up. I laughed it off, but it stung. I worked 60-hour weeks to keep us comfortable. I planned vacations, fixed things, remembered important dates. I thought that was being a good husband. Standing in that gas station parking lot, watching the sunset over the Montana hills, I realized I'd been wrong. Not about being a good husband, about who I was married to. The taxi ride to Billings cost $60. The bus to Denver took 14 hours. 14 long hours to think about everything. I kept checking my phone, expecting an apology, some panicked call. But nothing came. Around midnight, somewhere outside Casper, Wyoming, it hit me. This wasn't about independence. It was about humiliation. They wanted to show me exactly where I stood in their little sisterhood. I thought about every time I'd stayed quiet to keep the peace. Every time I'd apologized for things that weren't my fault. Every time I'd let their jokes slide. The worst part wasn't being abandoned. The worst part was realizing they'd probably planned it for weeks, sitting around Jessica's apartment, laughing about how clueless I was. By the time the bus rolled into Denver at 8 a.m., I'd made my decision. I wasn't going back. When I got home, the house was empty. I sat at the kitchen table, called in sick, then did something I'd never done before. I went through Stephanie's things. Not out of jealousy. Out of desperation. I needed to understand who I'd really married. Her laptop was password protected, but her browser tabs were open. There they were. Group chats. Months of screenshots of our texts, shared with laughing emojis. Photos of me sleeping with captions like dead to the world as usual. And then the Montana plan. Jessica, we should totally ditch him somewhere and see how long it takes him to get home. Vanessa, OMG yes. He's so dependent on Steph for everything. Stephanie, you guys are terrible, but it would be hilarious. They planned every detail. I closed the laptop, packed a bag, and walked out. No note. No locking the door. I wasn't coming back. I moved in with my brother Kevin in Colorado Springs. He didn't even ask for an explanation, just handed me a beer. When I finally told him everything, he just shook his head. You're better off without her. He was right. I called my boss, transferred to a project in Colorado Springs. A fresh start. Then the calls started. Stephanie. Jessica. Unknown numbers. It was just a joke. You're overreacting. Come home so we can talk. I ignored them, blocked them, but they didn't stop. One Thursday, Kevin came home and said, "Your wife's outside." I looked out the window. Stephanie's sedan was parked across the street. She got out, looking nervous. I met her in the lobby before she could knock. "John, thank God," she said, reaching for me. "I've been so worried." I stepped back. "What do you want, Stephanie?" "I want you to come home. To talk. Talk about how you left me 200 miles from home? How you and your sisters planned it for months." Her face shifted. The concern disappeared. What came next was irritation. "It was a prank, John. You're acting like we committed a crime. You left me stranded. You laughed about it. You planned it. Because you needed it," she snapped. "You're so dependent. We thought if you had to figure something out on your own, maybe you'd grow up." I stared at her. 8 years of marriage. And this was who she really was. "I'm not coming home," I said. She scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. You can't just disappear because your feelings got hurt. Watch me." I turned and walked away. The divorce was messy. She tried to spin it. Told my parents I was having a breakdown. Told friends I'd abandoned her over a harmless misunderstanding. But my lawyer, Patricia Coleman, was good. We had screenshots. Social media posts from that same night. Stephanie and her sisters partying at a bar in Billings with captions like "Girls' Weekend." Freedom. We had proof of the harassment. When the judge saw the evidence, he shut her case down. Divorce granted. No spousal support. Stephanie tried to talk to me in the courthouse hallway. Patricia stepped between us. No contact. I walked out without looking back. 3 years later, my life looks nothing like it did. I started my own construction company. Kevin works with me. So does my buddy Marcus. Business is good. I bought a little house in Colorado Springs. Quiet. Peaceful. Mine. Marcus told me Stephanie remarried 6 months after our divorce. It lasted a year. Jessica lost her job after her harassment came to light. Vanessa burned through her friendships spreading lies that backfired. They all faced the consequences in their own time. And me? I finally learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes, walking away isn't losing. It's winning.